Thanksgiving and a good weekend. A lot to talk about, a lot to get into. We'll be breaking down some NFL, some college football, and we'll be getting into the GHSA as well, some quarterfinal playoffs, looking ahead kind of to the semis and breaking all that content down. So, Greg, man, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I think right now in high school football, these teams are just absolutely loaded. We are going to have trouble kind of picking the winners in this one, but they all have great quarterbacks, great defenses, playmakers everywhere. So I'm just excited for this week.
Yeah, you and me both. And just a quick, we obviously reacted, guys, live. We'll be doing that again this week. We reacted live to the quarterfinal round and what we saw. We got had some coaches on. So if you guys didn't see that, make sure you check that out. That was some good content. But we looked at some of the things and broke it down. But just real quick before we get into semifinals, what were some matches that stood out to you?
I was impressed with Bryce Hicks and Carrollton. They really had a field day on that Walton defense. Walton had a rough second half, but I just liked the way Carrollton played. I think that was probably their best outing of the season. Mill Creek, a big lead, kind of expected them to get that win. And then the big result was Milton against Grayson. They absolutely dominated. They played more physical than them and were just making a ton of plays. So I think Milton's really red hot, and that win over Grayson says a lot. They've gotten better each week, and I'm just excited to see what they do this week.
Yeah, you and me both. I think that stood out. Obviously, I thought Walton played very well, but Walton, they just kind of second half. They're only down 7 points, but I think the turnovers made a difference. It's 3 turnovers, I think, total in that game. They lost one of their best players in Matthew Trainer. I think all that made the difference for them and, kind of the result and what kind of happened there. But, I mean, like I said, we'll see what happens,
Yeah, and they just
with them
couldn't
going
get
forward.
stops. They couldn't
Yeah,
get
they couldn't
stops.
get stops.
They've had a tough
No.
situation all season with their kicker. I think their original one got lymphoma, so he's been out. So they missed two PATs, and I mean that just kills you. So I just think they lost the kicking game, and they literally could not stop that Carrollton offense. And Bryce Hicks had one of the best games I've seen with the 5 touchdowns. He absolutely balled out, and he's going to be a big factor this week. That's for sure.
Yeah, that game against Colquitt will be really interesting. And, that game stood out. I thought the Langston Hughes game to me also stood out. They kind of struggled early with some penalties, but they figured it out. Ended up, kind of pulling away in the second half with a big victory in their game against Woodward Academy. I think another matchup that stood out to me was obviously Thomas County Central and Roswell. Roswell battled back from 24-6 to win 42-34. Thought their defense clamped down in the second half, which was really important. And they got a lot that they're trying to do this year, and obviously they right in a way of that, and they'll play Gainesville actually in our televised game.
So Roswell, they had 7 points at the half, and they won 42-32.
Yeah,
that's how much they dominated the second half. So as I said on Monday, I think Roswell and Gainesville both have the ability to come back and rally. Gainesville kind of a similar situation. They can just explode offensively with all their playmakers. So I think that's going to be a great 4 quarter game. I'm excited for that one. But I think Roswell should look at that second half, the way they were able to control the clock. That's what they're going to need to do against Gainesville, because if you give that Gainesville offense the ball, it's going to be a tough night.
yeah. Let's break down. Actually, let's look to the semis now and break down a matchup that you had. It's actually going to be my game of the week. I'll be talking to head coach for North Coney soon. But what stand out to you in that matchup against Cedartown? I mean, last week I saw they had over 442 yards rushing in the second half. They were down 21-13, but they clamped down again defensively, won 26-21 against a really tough Bainbridge team. But I think they can pound the rock against you. I mean, it's not just Harlan Diamond. They have their other running backs that step up and have big games. So what stands out to you there?
Yeah, so Cedartown's probably the most prolific running attack in the state this season. That's their bread and butter. They've been doing it for years with Reese Tanner at quarterback. And what has stood out though with Cedartown is each year they're gradually kind of adding some passing plays into that offense that makes them even more dangerous. And that's how they beat you. They'll just pound the ball all game long. They're averaging like 280, 300 yards a game. And then they'll spark these big plays with, I forgot the other guy's name, but yeah, Harlem Diamond's been huge. He's been coming up with the plays. So I think that's just their style. They know what they're going to do, and they're just a really physical team that has that X factor of seniors that have played deep into the playoffs probably the last 3 seasons together. So I think that's really something that Cedartown has going for them. It's hard to kind of end those senior seasons. They do not want to fall in the semifinals. They did last year to I think Carver Columbus maybe. But yeah, they've been to the semis 2 years in a row. North Dakota has also. And with North Dakota, I just think they're playing so well defensively. I think they're only giving up like 10 points a game. Um, and they were able to a Wayne County team that similarly to Cedartown wants to run the ball. They have a three-headed attack. They run the ball 85% of the time. And so North Dakota comes out, they stop the run, they do what they need to do offensively. I think it's the same game plan this week against Cedartown, but does Cedartown have that extra kind of strength advantage and experience? Maybe. I do think Cedartown's a better team than Wayne County, but I do like North Dakota.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I mean, they're rushing attack kind of against, Norfolk Coney and see what they do in that game, or can they make them more of a passing team, and make them rely on Reese Tanner. I think that's an interesting matchup. Definitely one of the better games I think this week, and I can't wait to kind of see the result.
Yeah. One more thing, yep. And then Coach Arndt, when we were talking to him on Friday, he said they had more turnovers in that game than their last 5 games combined. So I think it was only 2 turnovers. But I mean, they cleaned that up, and this is a really good football team. I mean, they've been outstanding all season. Haven't lost. School record 13 wins or 13-0. Both teams are undefeated heading into it. I think it's going to be possibly the best game in the state this week.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And another game I'm keeping my eye on, I've been talking to Craig a lot, and I don't know if I'm convincing him yet, but he's been taking a close eye at it. It's going to be Mill Creek versus Milton. And like I said, when I do my analysis, it's no disrespect. I think Mill Creek's a phenomenal team. They're a great group of kids. They got stars all over the place. Trajan Draco. They got 5-star commit to Alabama. Caleb Downs. Hayden Clark's a phenomenal quarterback, can throw the football. Mikael Woods, a 3-star going to Eastern Michigan. Brendan Jenkins, the son of former Falcons receiver. Malcolm Jenkins. So they got talent. It's not that. I just think it's going to be a good game. And I feel like that not loss, but I would say I feel like them playing against Mill Creek is going to be a good game. I mean, Milton has the talent to be dangerous. They were already here in the semifinals. Nobody thought they would get this far. They already have a 1,000-yard rusher in Scott Maskowitz right now, 1,030 yards, I think 13 touchdowns on the season. Then they have a dynamic playmaker in DeBron Gatling, who's only a junior. He's a 4-star. In his coach alluded to, he could do a multitude of things well. He's not just a deep ball guy. He's not just a 50-50 guy, but you put him anywhere on the field and he's dangerous. And last game, I think he had over 200, maybe the close to 300 yards of scrimmage just from kickoff returns and things like that. So, I mean, you pair him
and his interception return touchdown.
Yeah, he had a pick 6. I mean, the guy does it all. But then you go look at their defense. Okay, so you got Gatling on defense. Then you have 2 of the top safeties in the game, Robert Billings, Bryce Thornton, a Florida commit. Paired that with Jack Lawson, who was a converted, was a receiver, but not a converted linebacker, leads the team in tackles. Then you pair that with Owen Phillips and William Parton. I mean, you got a dangerous group. I mean, they can really perform well. I mean, how many sacks Phillips has? He has 15.5 sacks.
15.5.
They got Caleb Moore and 9 sacks.
54 team sacks this year.
So. Yeah. So Caleb Moore leads the way, 9 sacks. William Parton has 131 tackles this year, 10 sacks, and then Owen Phillips has 15.5.
Yeah, so I think what stood out, first of all, shout out to Owen Phillips. I saw his game film he on Twitter from the Grayson game. Holy crap. I mean, he absolutely dominated, and his moves are just outstanding. The spin move, he's going under, he's swimming, and then a lot of guys, they'll over pursue and then get behind the quarterback. Mm-hmm. He was not doing that. He had a lot of balance, a lot of skill sets. So you see why he's pretty much leading the 7A in sacks this year. But I just think that is going to be the key to stopping Mill Creek. Mill Creek plays complementary football. They're really analytical. They have 48 rushing touchdowns this season. Cam Robinson's been phenomenal. Caleb Downs running the ball is always dangerous. But their RPO system, they're kind of going to take what the defense gives you. They're going up against a defense that's just going to be disruptive. They're going to fly to the football. And I think that's kind of the match problem that Mill Creek hasn't potentially gone up against in recent weeks. A defense that's just going to be disruptive, have guys that can break through on the line of scrimmage. Yeah. And then Hayden Clark, he's done a great job running this offense, but you look at all the sacks they've been able to produce. I mean, if they get some good stuffs and force some 3rd and longs, that's a situation that Mill Creek has not been in this season. So I think that's going to be the key for Milton. Just literally show up, ball out, and win that fight.
Yeah, flush it, we ball. So My money is already. I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I'm going to do a video on it later this week. But I got Milton with an upset. I mean, I don't know if you guys would call it an upset because Milton is actually the number one team that actually, they reached really a road game for Mill Creek. But I know a lot of people are going with Mill Creek. But I got Milton in that one. I just believe in what Coach Reed is doing, how that program is coming to be. Last year they were in the state final. They lost to a really good Collinsville team that's had superior talent all over the field. But I think they're back. And I think they're ready to compete, and I think they're gonna go toe to toe with Mill Creek, and don't be surprised if you see Milton coming out with a victory. But
yeah, I mean, we got to keep in mind. I mean, Hayden Clark, he's only thrown one interception this season, so it is going to be tough to get this Mill Creek offense kind of off its rhythm. It hasn't really happened, but they have Mill Creek an 8-point favorite in the computer, so it's a 28-20 projection. I wouldn't be surprised if it is kind of in that scoring range. But yeah, I just think with Mill Creek, they don't make mistakes. 46 rushing touchdowns, 213.8 yards per game. But when you factor in that Milton defensive front, the safeties, if they can win that battle and force them in third and longs, I think you're right. Milton could shock a lot of people. And once again, Owen Phillips, a guy, watch his game film. Guy has 0 stars. He's pretty much leading 7A in sacks this season. Put up, I think, 3 sacks in that one game highlight against Grayson. I mean, he absolutely dominated. So I'm excited to kind of see what this Milton defense brings to the table going up against just an outstanding, well-oiled machine in Mill Creek.
Yeah, it's a reason why it's on TV, and it's going to be the 5 o'clock game. I'm going to try to catch it as best as I can because that's going to be a really good game. I can't wait to see the result of that one. Like Craig alluded to, really elite offense, great coaching, Josh Lovelady. They do great with their analytics and trying to throw you off their tendencies and things like that. So I mean, it's going to be a great back and forth game. But I think Milton got something brewing special, and I see them make it to the state final. But this is going to be a great, great game. So if you guys, not tuned in, it'll be on GPB. Tune into that game. And the last game I wanted to hit on.
One more thing, though, Milton does have 17 interceptions this season too. So I think both teams have really talented secondaries, but that Milton one is really doing a great job this season.
I agree. And the last matchup was Hughes and Rome. I think this is going to be a good game. I know most people are probably going to have Hughes' favor. I think Hughes will win the game, but I think you can't sleep on Rome. They can beat you throwing the football, and then they can beat you also, just in a defensive game. So we seen earlier this year they beat a really good Creekside team, 16-6. It was a defensive battle. They got a bunch of stars on their channel as well. But I just think that, they are a good team, and you can't sleep on Rome. I mean, Reese Fountain's doing a great job as their quarterback. They got weapons on the outside, and they can run the ball as well. I think John Reed has done a great job with their group this year.
Yeah, they're just going to have to keep themselves in the game. That's something no one's been able to do. Woodward Academy had it tied up at the half. Maybe if they kept it within 1 or 2 scores, they could have made some plays at the end. But once Hughes gets going and runs away with it, it's just game over, and they've been able to do that week in and week out. We looked at that game last week. It was 21-21 at the half. By the first minute of the fourth quarter, they were up by like 30. It's just like, what happened? So that's just what Hughes does. So if Rome can keep the ball in their possession and kind of slow down the game, I think that's because you do not want to keep giving Hughes a chance to just light up the scoreboard.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of the last matchup we want to talk about was Carrollton versus Colquitt County. I think it'll be a good game. Nico Fan's been having a phenomenal year, 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for him. They could run the ball well, and the Quavian Carr has been good in playmaking for them. Amarius Pace has averaged about 103 yards a game for them. They also have Landon Thomas, who's another great playmaker. They both are near 1,000 yards this season. So I think it'll be interesting to see how freshman quarterback Julian Lewis will go kind of in a hostile environment. They've had pretty much all of the playoff games home this year. So this is going to be a hostile environment down south, I think in Moultrie, Georgia. So it'll be a good game, I think. Can they slow down their rushing attack? Can Carrollton get those defensive stops? Because we've seen kind of Walton have their way first half. We've seen it kind of East Coweta, made the game interesting late in the games that we've seen televised this year with them. But Bryce Hicks, I mean, he's an X factor. He plays both sides of the ball well. He's a corner. He had 5 touchdowns in the last game. He can catch it. He can run it. He can do a lot of things well. And Julian Lewis has continued to step up big. And they got a really big target in Caleb Odom, who's 6'6", 210, can catch the football well and play, really good.
I think it's going to be a shootout. When you look at this Carrollton offense, though, and a guy like Bryce Hicks, he's their leading rusher, obviously, but then he actually has the most receptions, not the most yards. They're big guys and not the most touchdowns. But then you look at Colquitt's offense, they're able to run and pass the ball too, but they don't even have a running back that's going out in the flat. So that's what makes them dangerous. They line up, and on any given play, they can either go to the run with their big stable of backs or go to the passing game. So they run a great spread system. And even in that game last week, Nico Fan had the 6 touchdown passes. They still had a field day running the ball. So I think that's interesting when you have an offense like Carrollton where your running backs contributing in this pass and attack that's been exceptional this year. Julian Lewis, like 3,300 yards, but then with Colquitt, they really do have just a balanced offense where they're going to do what just kind of what's going to put them in the best position. They distribute the ball well. And Sean Calhoun used to coach at Carrollton, so I think that's just another interesting dynamic to the game.
Yeah, for sure.
He led them to 5 straight quarterfinals appearances, and I think they got rid of him after that. They're like, we want championships here. Come on. But it's pretty amazing.
I think
5
you
straight.
told me a great stat too earlier in the season that they pay their coaches a lot too
Yep.
when they come there, and the kind of expectation is for you to perform well, and it's not just quarterfinals, semifinals, it's for you to win it all. So I think you told me like earlier in the year that's something they kind of focus on, they kind of harp on. So
Yeah, so Carrollton is kind of at the head of the entire coaching carousel. Just because it's a city school, there's so much money around it. It is one of the highest paying jobs. And so I think it's Carrollton, Buford, Cartersville, Calhoun. And so once any of those jobs open, which Carrollton has opened recently, because if you aren't winning a state title in like 2 years, they're going to bring someone else in. I think, yeah, Joey King's there now. He's an outstanding coach. Came from Cartersville to the college ranks and then down to Carrollton. So I think, once that job opens, it really sends everyone around. So, I mean, it is the highest paying job. It's a great school, great support around it. And this is a big game, undefeated, going up against Colquitt, playing down there. Woo.
it'll be a good one. But yeah, guys, that's what we got as far as just the matches to look out for. Was there any others in other classifications? I mean, we hit on 3A Friday, kind of the Carver, Atlanta, Sandy Creek, Cedar Grove playing. I think it's Oconee County. That'll be interesting matches. But any other ones that kind of stood out to you as far as in other classifications that we didn't hit on?
Yeah, I thought Cartersville looked really good in 5A. I'm interested to see what they do this round. And then I was just impressed with that Dutchtown Mays game. I mean, that was an incredible football game. The 11 lead changes you talked about. I'm excited to see what Mays brings next season, and then see what Dutchtown continues to do. And then Warner Robins beating Creekside. That is a huge kind of indicator that they're back to that championship form. So I think the Warner Robins Cartersville game, that's gonna be epic.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's all we got, guys, as far as, our first segment of what we're talking about today. We're going to go ahead and move into our second segment. Man, college football. So much to talk about. So much happened. A lot of upsets. I think I saw – so right now there's 3 teams that are undefeated still. There's 2 teams with 1 loss, and then the Reds have 2 losses or more. So definitely intriguing. And then we're in a conference championship round as well. So what did you think of the Michigan kind of trouncing Ohio State? What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think Ohio State, they had the lead early, and then it was just the big plays by Cornelius Johnson. What did we say when we were watching the Walton game the other day? When you catch the football, spin outside.
Mhm.
Don't spin inside. Don't dance around. Get upfield. And he was able to break those big plays. And then once kind of they had Ohio State kind of on their heels a bit, then you saw the running attack, and then the offense just dominated from that point forward. But those big plays were so huge against Ohio State. So I just thought it was a great win. And I think just watching it, though, it's like, would those teams have been undefeated if they were playing in the SEC? I think that's
That always comes up.
That's got to be the reaction. I mean, Michigan did look good. Ohio State looked good as well. I think they are in that playoff conversation for sure. But it's like, it wasn't something where it's like, oh, these teams, they could dominate Georgia. I wasn't really impressed to that level.
Yeah, I would say for me, my biggest takeaways from that game, Ryan Day coach scared. They had multiple fourth downs in that game. I mean, you got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You're not going for it. I mean, put it in his hands. I mean, he didn't perform well. He had 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He didn't have his best game. But at the same time, guess how many touches Marvin Harrison had? Only had 8. I think he had 8 targets really up until the 4th quarter. That's your best receiver. He's one of the best receivers in the country. You got to get him the ball more in space. I mean, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the play call, and they wouldn't go into the run into second downs. You cannot do things like that, you know. And I think too, another thing that stood out to me was Donovan Edwards. He was huge. He had a 75-yard run and he had an 85-yard run in that game. That kind of put them away. It was only 31-23 going into the fourth.
He's been out, hasn't he?
No, that was Blake Corum.
Okay.
Corum has been out, but he played a little bit. But this is the sophomore running back that stepped up big for them. They gave him all those yards. So those two big runs were just, I think, demoralizing for Ohio State. They played man the whole game and they got torched. J.J. McCarthy torched them for 3 touchdowns, 216 yards. I thought that was big. They never came out of man, even though they were getting beat. They should have switched it up some, ran some cover 3, some deep 3 zones, some cover 4, some cover 2, just to switch up the looks. Because if you're getting torched with man, switch up the looks. I thought Ohio State failed to do that. I thought they failed to trust in their quarterback, and coach too scared, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why they
about
lost.
that, though. So the criticism before was that they were forcing the ball to Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's the biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
You aren't giving him 10 throws. It's just,
Right.
that makes no sense why you wouldn't do it in this situation.
Yep.
He's your best guy. But I like what you said about coaching scared. It's like we see some of these teams gambling for these 2-point conversions and stuff, but it's like, what is stopping a coach in the biggest game of the season from taking those chances? I mean, it really says a lot about your confidence going into it. It gets the other team, like, you're kind of in their head. If they're worried you might just have that aggressive ability to go for it. I mean, why do you think coaches are kind of opting not to be aggressive in some of these calls?
I don't understand that. I mean, like you alluded to it. It's the biggest game of your season. This is going to determine whether you go to the college football playoff or not. Be aggressive. I don't know if they're scared of the criticism that comes after, but if I'm a coach, I'm like, okay, hey, I did what I thought was best for my team. I did what I thought was going to put us in position to win. You have to do that. You saw, and it was to me like as the game played out, you saw they could not stop them. Like they were going down the field. If they weren't scoring a touchdown, they were getting a field goal. So you got to think, okay, I got to. Sometimes your offense can be almost your best defense in some instances. You don't want it to be, but if your offense can go down and score and give your defense some time to kind of recoup, they weren't doing that. They were going 3 and out, or they would get a first down and they would have to punt the ball right after. So I thought that was key throughout the game. You cannot coach scared, as you mentioned, Craig, in those situations. You have to go get it. This is for all the marbles. You want to, and I thought I seen a great statistic. He's had C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields, and he only has, I think, 1 playoff win to show for it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But so obviously Ohio State's not a team that's up against the wall in a lot of games.
No.
But the teams that do come out with these aggressive game plans, you can tell that they practice those situations.
Yeah.
It's almost like they don't even have like that confident, like 4th and 3 play ready to go. It's like there's, oh, we're in this situation. What do we do? Oh, we just do what we're supposed to do. It's like, no, you got to come in with that in your back pocket, knowing, hey, if we need this big momentum change or we need to keep things going, we're going to go for it. We know the play, we practiced it. But yeah, I don't even think they had a plan for it. Teams like the Chiefs or other teams, even Walton, we saw it's like when they're in the 4th down situation and they had that mindset going into it, it's not even a question.
Yeah.
So I just think they didn't have it prepared.
No, I didn't think they did. And I thought, shout out to Jim Harbaugh. This is actually the second time this is the first time they've beaten Ohio State in back-to-back years since 2005. So a long time, and he's doing something right there. And I think obviously they're on the collision course to be in the college football playoff. They should beat Purdue in the championship round, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, I think Ohio State, they may have a chance, but now they got to kind of look and see what's going to happen with USC. But they got to, if they are able to get in, you got to coach not scared. You got to go forward on those 4th downs. You got to be aggressive. And if you see your defense is not stopping the opponent, then use your offense as your defense and go forward on those critical 4th downs. I'm not saying in your own territory, but if you got it and you know what I'm saying, you're there in midfield or you're on the 40, go for it. You got the quarterback weapons to do it. I didn't understand that, but we'll keep it rolling. Let's get into our top 4 teams in college football right now that's going to make the playoff in our opinion. I'm going to go first and throw it to Craig. 1, Georgia, dominant team all year. So many weapons, could run the football well. Kendall Minton, Stetson Bennett has performed great. Brock Bowers, McConkey, there's so many weapons on that team. Defensively, they perform well, even though they've had injuries to Noah Smith. I think Malachi Starks, Keely Ringo have performed great, brilliantly all year long, and I think that's why they're in this position. So they should be LSU in the upcoming game, but I got them 1-2 Michigan. I mean, again, dominant win, and that win was on the road. This was not in Ann Arbor. This was in Ohio State and Columbus. They went there, they took it. Got to put them number 2, 3 for right now. TCU, they got a big game coming up. Don't sleep on their game against Kansas State. That'll be a big one. But they're 12-0 right now, trending in the right direction. We'll see what happens. And then 4, I got USC. Only loss was to a Utah team by 1 point, 43-42. Caleb Williams looks like he's going to be the Heisman favorite right now. They're playing some marvelous football. They got a big game coming up again with a rematch with Utah in the Pac-12 championship on Friday. So keep it tuned for that one. But who you got, Craig?
Man, I'm going to be a little more traditional on this one. Number 1, UGA.
Yep.
Number 2, Michigan. I'd say number 3, Ohio State. This has nothing to do with the rankings. It's just who I think is the best. And then number 4, Alabama. I think that's how things are going to shake out.
Interesting. Really? So yes. Bama over, y'all heard it here, folks. Bama over USC and TCU, undefeated TCU.
Yes. I think TCU might lose this week. We've seen it all this football season.
And you're right.
And the only thing we haven't seen is a potential UJ and Alabama game. So I kind of want to see it, but we'll see. I think TCU, obviously, they're in that position. A lot of people are going to say they won't deserve it. They didn't play a tough enough schedule. I mean, if they're undefeated, they're going to go win. But in terms of who do I think is the best 4 teams, I think it's still them. I mean, Alabama's losses, those were tough. They haven't really played well this season, but I mean, it's kind of last-minute losses. I think if it was the big game, they can show up, and who knows? I think the bigger the stakes, the better they play.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's an interesting list, man. Y'all comment below. The person that's watching, tell us what you think of Craig's top 4. I mean, it's really interesting. I'm surprised he put Ohio State back in there, especially after the loss. But we'll see kind of what happens. They don't really control their destiny, but we'll see. Actually, the college football playoff rankings come out tonight, so
yeah, it's going to be so interesting.
Kind of who they're going to do.
Where LSU ends up.
Dude, that's man, you threw me to my next point. I mean, I think their playoff hopes are toast, bro. I mean, to lose to Texas A&M, I mean, I think that was huge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what would happen. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia this weekend, but it is funny. Even despite that LSU loss, you think about these championship games this week, which one has the most meaning or potential to shake things up? It's still the SEC championship, which is crazy because, I mean, the other ones, Purdue, Michigan, I mean, that will impact Michigan or whatever.
Yeah.
Clemson, UNC, that's kind of a meaningless one.
It is.
Kansas State, TCU, that's TCU's game. So really the most impactful one is going to be LSU, a 3-loss LSU team, and UGA. I mean, this season has been so crazy, but in terms of just championship week, it really isn't that exceptional. Usually we have a couple games where it's like that's really going to determine it. But in this one, the only potential thing that could happen is just create a log jam in the final ranking. So it'll still be interesting to see. Obviously, TCU needs to handle business. Michigan does. But then if LSU could pull something off, I mean, what the heck would happen?
I mean, what could you say? I mean, 3 losses, but they've beaten good teams. They beat Bama. They did lose to Tennessee, but then they beat another good team this year too. I can't think of the team they beat on the road, but I mean, yeah. What would that be? Georgia? So do you knock Georgia out because they lost in the SEC championship game? I mean, you can't knock them out. And then Michigan. I guess Michigan moves to 1 if it happens. And then let's say USC beats Utah. Do they get in now? You know, it's kind of tough, but even that game you can't sleep on. Like you said, the TCU Kansas State game you can't sleep on either. That'll be kind of interesting to see. You know, those. But I agree. It's kind of up in the air. Like, you know, what will happen? Will it be a logjam? Who they're going to put in? Is it the top 4 teams or is it by record?
Yeah, it will depend on how far LSU drops down tonight.
Yeah.
We'll see. Because they sure as heck won't be number 5 anymore.
No, definitely not. And I want to give a quick shout out to South Carolina. They upset at Clemson. Shout out to Shane Beamer and what he's doing with the program. It is rumored that Spencer Rattler may be trying to transfer out and go play with Nebraska. With Coach Matt Rule. I don't know how true it is. Again, it is a rumor. We'll see what happens there. But back-to-back good games by Antoine Wells Jr., 177 yards in that win against Tennessee and 131 yards and 2 touchdowns in that win this past week against Clemson. But, 2 major upsets to really end almost the hopes of 2 playoff hopefuls in Clemson and Tennessee. So that was big. And I think this got to be said. I think Clemson needs to move on from Ugale. He was 8 for 29 in that game, 99 yards, a touchdown, and interception. Will Shipley had 151 yards on the ground. I think he's not. I think he's holding them back. I don't think he's going to take them to that level they want to be. And they've kind of been, you know, chipping at the nails a little bit, kind of like, chipping away, trying to get there. But they've had some losses that's kind of derailed them, year in, year out. They lost to Notre Dame and now South Carolina. But I think next year you got to move on.
Yeah, I mean, normally these Clemson teams is just like they're so good defensively, and
Yep.
they have these great receivers that make big
Yep.
plays. Their offense has definitely struggled this season. And then how did South Carolina come away with the win? They didn't run the ball at all. I think they only had like 50 yards because they knew Clemson was good at stopping the run. And so Clemson had to have known that, but then Spencer Rattler just tore him up. I mean, he was just slinging it,
Yep.
2 picks, 2 touchdowns. But I think it's interesting now if Spencer Rattler stays,
Yep.
late in the season, you pull off big wins like that. There's over 20,000 players in the transfer portal right now. So, I mean, he's a piece where if he stays, he might attract people to there. If he leaves, that leaves them in a tough situation. So, that's just another aspect to the college football season. I'm not saying I'm a fan of the transfer portal or whatever, but you pull off these late wins, and then you have a quarterback like that where it's like, okay, he's proven himself the last couple of weeks. He's
Yeah.
exciting. If he stays, people might go there. But then there's also the argument: if you're a transfer or you're in the transfer portal, are you damaged goods?
I mean, that's a good question because, like I said, it's kind of that thing of, when you're in the transfer portal, it's like either you're not getting playing time or you want to get in a better situation for yourself because you want to, make it to the next level or, just have a better opportunity. So it's tough. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, you've been through it. You know what I'm saying? You walked on that UGA, so you know how it is. So, when players do that, do you think they're doing it, obviously for the betterment of themselves, but do you think, how do you feel about transfer
Yeah,
portal?
so I mean, I get it. I think Justin Fields is a perfect example. I
Yeah.
mean, we watched the way he was used at UGA, and it's like it wasn't something where it's like wait your turn. They're literally like throwing him these like backward screen passes, just giving him nothing. It's like, okay, he should probably go play somewhere else,
Yeah.
and he did. And I thought college football that season was better for it. Um, but then some of these guys that are just going to show up one year and then leave, and then as I said, 20,000 names in it now. That's going to just keep going up. Our program's going to decide to play within the transfer portal, or they're going to say, you know what, we want guys that are going to stay for the 4 years, and are they going to focus just on the ground game and getting these high school guys that they know they're going to be able to develop rather than just trying to piece together a team? I think that's going to be really interesting, and we'll see it the first or the next several years. We'll see the impact of the transfer portal more before I think it plays out. But it's just a big change, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And if I'm Rattler, I mean, I'm going to stay. I mean, like you said, you pull off those two massive upset wins. I mean, got a lot brewing. And like you said, all those players in transfer portal, you never know who you might be able to bring in and even help the team. And they got some pretty good commits coming to South Carolina. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see kind of what happens with them. But I want to do a quick look ahead to championship weekend, conference championship weekend in the college football. I mean, obviously some big matchups, Utah, USC. Can USC, pull off the win? How would they rank up tonight? I think that's going to be an interesting test to kind of see what happens with them. TCU, Kansas State. I mean, don't be shocked. Kansas State's played tough all year. They're 9-3. Don't be surprised if they're able to pull up upset in the championship game. UGA, LSU. I mean, obviously, UGA is going to be favored to win. But LSU, when their back is against the wall, they've always kind of performed great. So don't sleep on that matchup either. I do think UGA will win, but that'll be interesting. And then Clemson, North Carolina. I mean, two teams, probably going to, be in bowl games, probably not going to make the college football playoff. But, how do they both come out in that game? Obviously, still some pride on the line. You still able to win kind of a ACC championship. So I think those are the matchups to kind of look out for and see how those are probably the most impactful on the college football playoff.
Yeah, what'd you think of LSU this last week against Texas A&M?
Yeah, I actually broke that game down. If you look at it, trying to see. Okay, so Texas A&M had Devon Achin had 215 yards rushing. They had a total of 2 touchdowns. They had a total of 275 yards on the ground. So I thought that was big, and I thought they couldn't really get it going offensively. I think they kind of jumped out to a lead early. Texas A&M did. I don't think they played their best football. LSU did, and I think that's what kind of made the difference. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't get their offense going. Jaden Daniels was their leading rusher again. They couldn't really get Kashawn Butte, who's their best receiver. I think he had 4 catches in the game, maybe 43 yards. I think you got to get your playmakers involved earlier in that. So I think that was kind of different. Couldn't stop the run, couldn't get really the ball to their playmakers. And I think Texas A&M, they just came out, firing.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to point out. That Devin Acom, how do you say his name?
I think
Acom.
Achin, yeah.
He took 38 carries, 38 carries for 215 yards. So if you're Georgia, you see that LSU had to have known he was going to continue getting the ball. I mean, 38 carries, that's probably a season high for everyone in the country. I don't know running backs to take 38 carries anymore. So Texas A&M just comes down there. They only complete 12 passes, just beat them on the run. So I think that should be worrisome for LSU fans heading into the Georgia game, where they might be able to open up that offense also. So, and then we all know how good Georgia's defense is. So that was something that surprised me, was just Texas was one dimensional and beat them.
Yeah, they were. And
Texas A&M, not Texas.
yeah, they were. They were one dimensional. They couldn't stop the run, and showed you kind of the effect the run game still has, saying in college football. But I thought that was big for them to win that, and it really made a difference. And now LSU hopes are kind of, only hope would be to try to beat Georgia and really just like a bunch of upsets in this upcoming week. I think that would maybe help them out. But I mean, that loss to Texas A&M was huge. I mean, they come in probably next week if they win number 5. They go in and they maybe beat Georgia. They may have a college football playoff spot.
Yeah, but I thought the way they looked against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia has. I think they've been holding back a little bit these last couple of weeks. I think they're going to show up and run away with it. I just don't see how LSU is going to beat Georgia this week. I don't.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, it'll be a good one, but yeah, I mean, Georgia's just been dominant, as Craig's alluded to. They might be the next Georgia. I mean, next Alabama coming around. So, I mean, this would be 2 titles in 2 years, but we'll see, man. I mean, obviously, they got to handle business SEC championship game and staying focused on that with all the weapons and everything they got going on. And we'll see how they look and who they're gonna match up with in the college football playoff.
Yeah, that will be fun. I'm excited for this weekend, and as I said, I think that LSU UGA does have the biggest impact, just regards to the bigger picture in this playoff race. But it'll be interesting. I want to see TCU play a big game too. I haven't really gotten to see too much of them. They've just been handling each week, picking up some key wins. So I think it's exciting for them. And I saw some stat about the enrollment numbers of the remaining undefeated teams with Michigan and UJ. It's like 32,000 students, TCU 10,000. So I know it'd mean a lot to kind of that fan base. Obviously, they wouldn't bring as many fans as some of these other ones, so maybe that factors into the decision too. But that's more of a conspiracy theory that the playoff committee picks people based off ticket sales.
An interesting conspiracy to say the least. But yeah, guys, we're gonna leave it there for college football. One more topic to kind of segment to get into. Personally, my favorite, NFL. So much to talk about with that. I mean, man, this was a big week. Let's start with Mike White for the Jets. Will he kind of supplant Zach Wilson in New York permanently? That's kind of the question. I think he should. I mean, he came out with 3 touchdowns, 315 yards passing. The offense flowed. Garrett Wilson probably had his best game as a pro, 2 touchdowns, broke away. Elijah Moore, we seen a Elijah Moore sighting. He got involved. He's got kind of been a guy that critiqued their offense and him not even getting the ball. So, I mean, I think it was a big game, but Craig, what do you think? You think that he should supplant Wilson?
Yeah, when you're a quarterback in the NFL, your job security, the only leverage you have is the other guy playing like trash, but he comes out, plays well. So yeah, I mean, I think Mike White should, and the way Zach Wilson came out of that last outing with the, what did you say, 2 yards in the second half for
2 total
the
yards.
entire team, and then not really taking accountability for it. It's like, I don't know, if you have a guy that's coming in bringing the spark, yeah, you should. I see no problem with him taking over it, but we'll see. But that was a big test for him to come out, get the 3 touchdowns, get the win, and I think New York is a decent team still. So
Yeah, I mean their defense is great. They only gave up 10 points. I think they forced a couple turnovers against the Bears. I mean they got a big game coming up against Minnesota. I think that's another good test for them to see how they're going to perform. I think it's a road in Minnesota, so that'll be kind of interesting to see what kind of happens there. But yeah, I mean if you got your quarterback playing like that and the team looked like they responded really well to him, and I think that's kind of huge. For the Jets and what they want to do because obviously they're in win-now mode. I mean, they got Sauce Gardner, C.J. Mosley, and their players have performed great. So I think they're in win-now mode, and I think they're trying to perform great.
yeah, I mean, they're playing a Bears team that's really having trouble. But still, I mean, that was a must-win game. Improves them to what 7-4 now. So
Yep.
that was big, and they needed it.
Yo, I agree. And I mean, going into the next topic, the Colts, they lost, 24-17. Their offense looked anemic in the first half.
Ooh,
They were down, I think 16-3. They got a field goal block. But their offense kind of cooked up in the second half. But I thought they did what they needed to do. They're running kind of first team with Jonathan Taylor, and he had 86 yards rushing that game, a touchdown. I think they need to get him more involved, to get him some better touches. But what do you think of Matt Ryan's performance in that game? I mean, I thought he looked shaky early, but I thought he did his best he could, just trying to elude the rush. I mean, that's a dominant front the Pittsburgh has. T.J. Watt, Highsmith, Cameron Hayward. They can really pressure you with just their front four, and they can really get home.
yeah. I mean, his first half, it's just he's in a much different situation than he was in Atlanta. That's for sure. But he had a 14 quarterback rating in the first half, so can't really get worse than that. And then he came out. I liked that play I texted you about where he dove over the line on the 4th and 1, landed on his head. So I mean, he's out there. He was out there competing. But then I thought at the end of the game, it wasn't the worst like mismanagement I've seen, letting the clock run out. But I also think that it was just predictable. It's predictable coaching, as you talked about, and they just weren't able to close that one out. So it's back to back tight losses, and then we're going to see the Colts again this Sunday night. Playing again,
Cowboys.
yeah, playing the Cowboys. So
Yeah.
we'll see what they do. But I think you're right; they are a run first kind of team. Matt Ryan operated better in the second half, but yeah, it's just a abysmal start to the football game. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Second half, I thought they played better. I think they got a pretty good defense for the most part. I mean, they just couldn't get enough going in that game. I don't think towards the end they had a chance, but just mismanagement of the clock. Obviously, I think I know why he didn't want to use his timeouts just in case that they didn't get it. But again, it comes back to your point that that's kind of scared coaching. Like, just go for it, go get it on that play. You know how good the defensive front was, and then the last play they tried to run a pick play for Paris Campbell. And then Matt Ryan just seen it late. He was open. He didn't see it until after the defender caught up, and then boom. So I think it was a good concept, but at the same time, if you're gonna have him run that and then a receiver come inside, they should have had maybe even their tight end Jelani Woods, who's Cedar Grove alumni.
yeah,
They should have had him. He had a great game too, 98 yards receiving. They should have had him run maybe a dig route or a drag route across the middle, where it was just kind of maybe an easy throw for Ryan to pick up the first. I think, but nonetheless, Indianapolis, we'll see. I think they got to go in the draft this year and get a quarterback. I mean, I think that's a position that's held them back. They've had like 6 to maybe 7 different quarterbacks since Andrew Luck has left and retired. So they got to go get a quarterback. And this is the best draft to do it. I mean, if you got to trade a couple assets to do it, I mean, you're going to have probably CJ Stroud come out. You're going to have Bryce Young. Will Levis should be there. Hendon Hooker. I mean, this is the draft. If you want to hit on the quarterback, this is going to want to do it. Last year, maybe not so much because it wasn't a deep quarterback draft. But this is the year if you're trying to hit on the quarterback to do it. And I thought Pittsburgh, great job running the football for them. George Pickens continues to show why he's great. He's going to probably be one of the top tier receivers in the game for sure. Coming up soon, he had some marvelous catches in that game. You saw him hit the Sioux celebration to kind of Ronaldo. But I think they got all the talent they need. It's just going to be the culmination of being more consistent, playing together. They got a strong defensive front, and a lot of their skill players on the offensive side of the ball are young. I mean, rookie Kenny Pickett, rookie, George Pickens, 2-year player, Najee Harris. I think Deontay Johnson's a 4-year player. Pat Fryer moved 2nd-year player. So they got talent, and they'll be able to compete, if not this year, in the next couple of years as they kind of try to keep building on their roster.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out because I mean these are back to back really close losses where they were in the game. So are they going to kind of keep having these types of games, or are things going to fall apart in that uh, kind of rebuilding phase that they're inevitably heading into?
Yeah, for sure. But keeping it moving, we got a big game. As you guys all know, I'm a Bengals fan. Craig is a Chiefs fan. Mutual respect there for sure. And I just want to ask Craig, do you think there's a new rivalry building? And before you answer that, we see a lot of times Bengals can kind of get disrespected. I think they're starting to wake people up. I mean, I was never, was I nervous? Yeah, but was I like, oh yeah, they're done? Most people counted them out after the 0-2 start. But in your opinion, do you think it's a new rivalry building? Obviously, all the heavyweights, everybody says Chiefs, Bills, Bengals are kind of an afterthought. But what do you think?
I think the Bengals are a major dark horse right now. I think the Chiefs with Mahomes, I mean, he's proven that he's just able to take them to the at least the conference championship game year after year. And then a team like Bengals, there's not really that exceptional team this year. There's no great team. You could argue that the Chiefs are maybe the best team in the league right now. They've had some injuries and stuff. So if you factor that in, well, the Bengals could beat them. The Bengals could show up and have a game and beat the Chiefs. So I think uh, when it comes to AFC, it's like, yeah, the Chiefs and the Bengals absolutely are, if not rivals, definitely top contenders. And I think just the history from last year, I think that's going to motivate Mahomes. And then the Bengals, they pulled off that win last year against the Chiefs team. They look a little different this year, but I mean, if you know how to game plan and scheme against a guy like Mahomes and Andy Reid, it's just going to be exciting. So I think in terms of rivalry, maybe not call it that, but in terms of a game that everyone across the league wants to watch and tune into, absolutely. It's one of the most exciting matchups of the season.
For the life of me, I mean, obviously it's going to be on CBS 425 kick. I don't know why this was not a Sunday night game, and unfortunately, can't flex it because you guys have already played in too many primetime games. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, I agree. This is a game everybody's going to try to watch, just like early in the season, the Bills and Chiefs. And I think you're getting to a point almost where you're going to have to, like year in year out, they have the games they schedule like people want to see. Like Bills and Chiefs is probably going to be a game every year people are going to want to see. I think the Bengals Chiefs is starting to kind of enter that territory. I think that's going to be a game every year people are going to want to see. But for me, I mean, the Chiefs are a phenomenal team. They're 9-2. They play football well. They struggled a little bit last week with the red zone struggles, but again, Kadarius Toney, y'all dealt with injuries in and out. Y'all have had I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire on IR. I think McCole Harmon's been on IR for 2 weeks. You guys had guys in and out a lot of, but you guys had young guys stepping up. Pacheco, the running backs have been playing really good this year. Scott Moore has been playing good. Juju Smith-Schuster, before he got his concussion and got injured, was playing pretty good. So you guys have a bunch of weapons that can make it dangerous. I'm curious to see how our defense is going to perform against them. Y'all have a great offensive line. I thought what allowed us to beat y'all last year was that we could clamp down in key critical periods in the game. Like second half, we was able to kind of stifle the offense, which is surprising because you guys have so many weapons. I didn't even mention Travis Kelce, who's future Hall of Famer at the tight end position, but you guys got him. Last year was no Tyreek Hill. You had so many weapons. I was shocked at some points in the game we were able to get those defensive stops and get the ball back to the offense. But y'all sleep on the Bengals, and what I like about our team is that we can beat you in different ways. Like you probably thought going to Tennessee game, like they're not going to win this game, but Tennessee plays you physical. Chiefs know that too. They play them. They're going to hit you in the mouth. I mean, for them to hold Derrick Henry to 38 yards rushing on 17 carries, I mean, they were hitting him. I mean, we had corners coming up and laying it down on Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs in the NFL. So I think that says a lot. Defensively, we're underrated. A lot of people don't give us love defensively, but they're a great cohesive unit. And you might be like, oh, they don't have no stars, but we could play a finesse game. We could play a physical game. We could play a high-scoring game with the Chiefs. And I think you need that kind of, that interchangeableness, kind of when you're playing in the playoffs and playing in big games like this. And last year's game, it was just great. Y'all went up, I think it was 21-3. I was like, oh, man, we're screwed. It was for the division, and right back to your point, Craig. You talked about coaching scared. And the reason we beat y'all that game, we didn't coach scared. It was, I don't know if you remember that final drive. It was like, I think it was a third or fourth down. We ran the ball, but we knew like, don't give the ball back to Mahomes. And like that's the reason why the Chargers, lose against y'all. Like they gave you the ball back a minute 45 right, with 2 timeouts. We didn't give you guys the chance to get the ball back. We're like, we're going to end the game here. We're going to run the football. We got the first downs, and we just milked the clock all the way down to kick the game winning field goal. That's what you have to do if you're going to beat the Chiefs. Like, there's a formula. Is it easy to get done? No, it is not. Not at all. But there's a formula to beat the Chiefs. You got to know what you're doing. You got to play good defense. You got to be able to score with them, and that's just kind of how it goes. So, I mean, I'm glad for us. That win was big too, Craig. We didn't have Jamar Chase. We didn't have Joe Mixon, but we get both of those back hopefully this week, which is going to help us out a lot offensively. And I think it's going to be a great game.
Absolutely. Yeah, getting Jamar Chase back, that'll be huge. You talked about the offensive line. You guys haven't been taking as many sacks. Nope. That's something you absolutely cannot do. Nope. Take a sack, you're getting these third and longs, you're punting the ball away. You can't do that. You have to sustain drives. So that's huge that they've been able to protect him better. And then with the Chiefs, I think it's a term that every team is in a sense a complementary football team, but the Chiefs just have done such a good job this year, defensively and offensively, just being on the same page and winning the game. It's like you look at other teams, it looks like the defense and offense, it's like one's playing well, the other's just like dropping the ball. It's like they really do complement each other. And I think the Bengals have a similar situation where they're able to adapt defensively to the different looks they get. They know who they're lining up against each week. And I think that the game plan with the Chiefs, I mean, you know what it is. It's like they're going to pass the ball. You got to take away the deep ball. You cannot let them go deep on you. But then it's also just all the misdirection and getting a hat on Travis Kelsey. So I just think it's going to be a great game. As you said, the Bengals are starting to get healthy, and I would not be surprised if they come in and play a really competitive game. I think it's definitely going to be a tough outing for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like I said, it's a mutual respect for you guys. All I'm gonna say to Zach Taylor, run the football. You made a great adjustment there in the second quarter. Do not come out there throwing 15, 20 times against the Chiefs defense, even if they're susceptible maybe to, not as good of a pass. You just run the football, man. Balance it out. I know we're gonna be excited that Jamar Chase coming back. I'm excited too, but just go to the game plan. We don't need to be pass heavy in this game. We know we got the quarterback to do it. We know we got the weapons to do it. But again, we got a tough schedule, Craig. Next 5 or 6 of our opponents are either playoff teams or they're in the hunt. So it's not going to be easy for us. Again, mutual respect for the Chiefs, but this will be a good game. Make sure y'all tune in to CBS at 425.
And
I
then
know I will be.
red zone defense is going to be so huge for both teams in this one. I mean, the Chiefs,
Yeah.
Harrison Butker's had some struggles this season, but he was 4 for 4 last week. But yeah, if you're limiting the Chiefs to field goals in this game, that is going to be absolutely key. And I feel like the Chiefs feel like they weren't as creative as they could have been. They didn't execute quite as well in that department. So they're going to be in that film room like crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I think it'll be a good game. Y'all make sure y'all tune in and we're going to leave it there. Let's talk about the Dolphins. They got a big test this week against the 49ers. I think they should flex this game instead of the Colts Cowboys. Yep. I think Dolphins 49ers. Dolphins coming at 8-3, 49ers at 7-4. I think this is a big test for the Dolphins. I mean, the 49ers, I don't know if you know this, Craig, their last 4 games in the second half, they have not allowed any points. So you couple that with the explosive offense that the Dolphins have and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, their running backs. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that game is going to kind of play out. Offensively, 49ers have kind of been struggling, not in their game before against the Monday night game against the Cardinals, but they struggled last game against the Saints, a lot. They only scored 13 points, but their defense held it down. So can their offense get it going? They got all the weapons and things to beat you. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, but can they get the ball to their playmakers? But, man, I mean, I just want to real quick, though, before I throw it to Craig. Next, we're going to find out a lot about the Dolphins. Their next 3 games, 49ers, Chargers, Bills.
Yeah, that's a tough stretch.
Yeah.
I thought the Dolphins looked good this last week. They're up 30-0 at the half. I did read, though, I think their left tackle, that's Taron Armstead, say left the game with a pectoral injury, and then Tua got sacked 4 times in that game. So that's the only thing that would concern me going into that 49ers game. If they have kind of a backup left tackle, that's a potential area of concern. But I think Tua's been playing great. The offense is clicking. They won 5 straight. So what a epic time of the season, a 5-game win streak heading into that really tough stretch. I think that's exciting, and you're absolutely right. We will learn a lot about the Dolphins in the coming weeks.
Yes, for sure. That's a rigid and kind of rough schedule, and if they're able to pull it out, I mean, more power to them. But if they won 3 of those games, they'd be 11-3. So I mean, that'd be incredible. But again, I mean, the Bills are going to want to come out with a win. They lost the earlier matchup in Miami. Chargers need the game. They're 6-5. They're in the hunt. They can't really take too many more losses. They want to get in the playoffs. And then the 49ers are a team that, in the NFC that people are thinking are the best team. So, I mean, it's going to be a great game. Can't wait to, see how it kind of comes out. Can Tua lead them to a victory? Is their offense going to come out in this game? Defensively, can they get stops against their kind of prolific offense as well? It's been struggling lately, but we know when it's humming, it's humming. So that's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Who do you think is not the best team in the league right now, but just like at this point, who do you think? Who do you expect just to kind of take it next level and make that run? That's kind of because there's a lot of teams that are in that similar like 7-4 right now.
You're right. I mean, gosh, I won't even say best teams. Teams I think can make a run. I I think San Fran can make a run. I think Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to be there. I think Cincinnati, if they have a chance and stay healthy, they can make a run. No, Graham, I don't think Washington is making a run. No way in hell. No, I'm sorry, respectfully. They don't have the quarterback. They don't have the guy, Taylor Heineke, respectfully. But
yeah, I've heard a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right. So not but
talk the last couple of weeks.
But he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to the NFC Championship game twice. So, I mean, you could say maybe he's not the guy, but I mean, we can find out again this year, you know. Obviously Trey Lance isn't the guy. I mean, no offense. I mean, he did get hurt, you know, sorry that happened to him, but I mean, they were struggling offensively. And when Jimmy G came back, you kind of seen their offense kind of light up. But to go back to your point, Chiefs, I think will be there. I think the Bengals, if they could stay healthy and run the football and, you know, just lean on Burrow a little bit and their defense keep playing the level they're playing, them, San Fran. I think Philly, theirs is going to come down to coaching. I think too many times, like their game against the Packers, they ran the football well. Like they had 360 yards rushing. Depend on the running game a little bit more. Obviously, you know, Jalen Hurts can throw it, but, you know, let the run set up the pass. That's their problem offensively. And then defensively, they play too much cover 2 shell and too much cover 3. Like they don't bring enough pressure. They just rely on their front four, which is good, but you got to be able to mix it up. You got to throw some different looks in there. What about you?
Well, I just think if you look at it, I mean, people are saying that San Francisco might be like the best team on paper, but Jimmy Garoppolo, there's questions there. I still feel like the Chiefs are the best team. I think they go out. They've given themselves a chance to win every week. They've got a great quarterback. They've handled the injuries. If they can come back healthy, I mean, I think that's a really big threat to take it. And just Mahomes, he's like an automatic to lead them to the conference championship. He's done it year after year. But then I am interested in these other teams, like you mentioned Philadelphia. That'll be interesting. And then the Bills, I mean, we always talk about them. When are they going to get it going? So I just think it's interesting this season because there's not that runaway team. And then I really do like the Bengals. I think they've overcome a slow start to the season and they start getting healthy again. They proved they made a run last year. I think they are a definite dark horse. And I think the Bengals Chiefs game this week will really set the tone for this pivotal stretch of just securing these playoff spots and trying to build that momentum at the right time.
Let me ask you this, because we're going to conclude Sean a little bit, but who scares you more, like as a Chiefs fan, the Bills or the Bengals? Or is there another team out there that scares you the most?
In the AFC, no. I'd say we have, people would say, maybe gotten a little lucky against the Bills the last few times. Definitely in the playoffs. I'd say the Bengals at this point.
They scare you the most?
Yeah. I just think guys are able to run the ball defensively, getting after it. I don't know. I think with the Bills, we seem to just have their number.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm a real quick on the Bills. They got the team, obviously. They went on and got Von Miller 6-year contract. They got the safeties. They got the weapons, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Isaiah McKenzie, Devin Singletary. They picked up James Cook in the draft. They got weapons all over the field, but it's just going to be – it comes down to Josh Allen. He was the MVP, the early MVP favorite to win it. He's kind of come back down to earth a little bit, a lot of interceptions. The big thing is not overusing him and him taking care of the football. That's the biggest thing. We know he got the arm. We know he can sling it. We know he's a gunslinger. We know he's great with the football. We know he can put it in certain places that you can't. We know he does miraculous plays. But when it comes down to it, if you're going to be the Chiefs, you cannot be mistake prone, you know, or in the AFC, you cannot be mistake prone. Now, you guys may say, okay, are we sleeping on the Dolphins? Maybe we are a little bit. I have to, again, it's almost a prove it league in the NFL. What have you done for me lately kind of thing? I got to see the Dolphins. I want to see if they're going to go far. This next stretch of 3 games is going to tell me a lot. 49 Chargers, Bills. That's going to tell me a lot if they're going to go far, if they're going to make some noise. So I got to see that first before I can say, okay, Dolphins. The Ravens, again, a good team. They have 4 blown leads this year where they were up at least double digits.
Yeah, they were frustrated after this last one.
Yeah, sure. Against the Jags. I mean, like if you're doing that in the play, like you're going to lose. You cannot blow a lead and be up 20 points or whatever it is in order to lose. So I do want to take a look at the, you may have it, Craig. This is the playoff standings, and
Yeah,
this
I
is
got
some
it right
teams that
here.
stand out. All right, so let's look at it, guys. We're gonna look at the playoff standings right now.
Here's
Maybe
this.
we'll look at some teams that we think going to actually make it. So let's start NFC and then we'll go to AFC. So NFC right now. So obviously, Philly's the 1 seed. Minnesota's the 2 seed. Um,
San Fran.
San Fran's the 3 seed. Tampa Bay's the 4 seed. Dallas is the 5 seed. Giants are the 6 seed, and Washington 7 seed. So right now, if the playoffs started, the whole NFC East would be in, which is
Yeah, that's
absurd.
interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of absurd, and it's called the NFC East for probably the last
Not
3 to 4
anymore.
years, but no. So they got a good lead right now. I think Seattle's 6-5, and the next opponent that's high up there, it'll be the Falcons at 5-7. So could Washington make the playoffs? I mean, yeah, they maybe can make the playoffs. I mean, we'll see. They got some good tests coming up. They got to play the Cowboys again, the Giants. But again, I think they just don't have a guy at the quarterback position. Tampa Bay, I mean, they play in a weak division. That was a brutal loss to Cleveland on the road, but you got to put the ball in Brady's hands. I mean, he's the GOAT for a reason. You scared he's going to throw an interception? They said he hasn't thrown an interception in the past decade, I think, plus in the fourth quarter OT in a tight one-score game.
Yeah,
Get a
that's a crazy
like,
stat.
come on, get the ball to the goal. He know what he's doing. I didn't understand that. The Giants, I think they've kind of reached their ceiling, unfortunately. I mean, they're a good team, but they don't have enough weapons, I think, to contend with some of these top teams in the NFC. That's just me. San Fran, I think they're dangerous. I think they can make a run. Minnesota, good team. Good team. Quarterback. How is he going to be in the primetime moments? He's not good in prime time. He's not good in the playoff games usually. They got all the weapons. I mean, Justin Jefferson's probably the best receiver in the game right now. So we'll see. And then Philly, it just comes down to coaching. That's their biggest thing. I mean, obviously they don't want an injury right now. Lacerated kidney for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Going to miss some time. They're going to have to depend on Blankenship, who's a rookie free agent for them, who's going to be getting more playing time. See how he steps up to the realm. But it's coaching. They play too much cover two shell. Teams can just go all over the middle of them. You cannot do that if you're going to play at San Fran or Minnesota. You got to be able to disguise some looks, bring some pressures, and bring some different stunts. But what you think about the NFC?
I think the Cowboys are playing a lot better. I think they are a potential team that can make a late run. I think the NFC South, as you mentioned, that's just going to maybe fall into the favor of Tampa Bay. And then, yeah, I think the Vikings have been really good this year, but also had some tough outings. So it's just like there's not as much consistency, I feel like. And then I feel like San Francisco just hasn't hit their ceiling yet. We haven't seen them really ball out and get that offense going. So great teams on paper, but as you said, it's like we need to see it. We need to see it week in and week out. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a team that has just had that game where everyone's like, okay, that's the team. That's the team that's we got to contend with this year, just in the NFC. But yeah, the Eagles are playing well and really do like Jalen Hurts. He's an exceptional player, and just the way he has handled his entire career, you got to respect him.
Yeah, I agree. And then I look to AFC. 1 would be the Chiefs, 2 is Miami, 3 Tennessee, 4 Baltimore, 5 Bills, 6 Bengals, and then 7 Jets. Don't ask me how I know off the top of my head. I just do. But I mean, obviously, some teams send out Jets. You can't sleep on them. I mean, obviously, it'll be the quarterback situation, but they're going to be a tough out. I think whoever they play defensively, they can kind of shut you down. They can create turnovers. 6 us, the Bengals, just continuing to play good defense, good wholesome defense. Rushing the quarterback, just getting a little bit more pressure on him. Our back end is going to be our biggest question mark. I know some people may know, but we did lose Chidobe Awuzie, our top corner. Can Cam Taylor-Britt continue to, as a rookie, continue to step up and make those big plays? He did have that punch out for Derrick Henry, made that big play. He made some big tackles. Can he hold up on the back end in coverage? Can Eli Apple hold up? So that'll be our biggest question mark is going to be our back end. Can they step up? I love Mike Hilton and what he brings to our team in the slot. We'll see kind of what happens there. 5, looking at Buffalo, dangerous team. Obviously, they want to win a division and kind of host a playoff game and maybe even host, Kansas City instead of always having to go to Arrowhead. But they got a tough division. Most of their teams in there are in the hunt for the playoffs. So they got to, kind of win. They play, I think, the Patriots actually this Thursday night. So that's going to be a big game for them. They got to try to win it to try to pull away and kind of, keep in range with Miami. I think 4 seed Baltimore, I just mentioned them. It's just going to be can they hold and maintain leads? They've lost too many leads. They made a great trade getting Roquan Smith, who's supposed to help solidify the defense, but you cannot be up 19-10 in that game and then lose to Jacksonville, who's struggled all season and things like that. And you can't depend on your kicker, who is obviously, I think, probably the best ever. And Justin Tucker, you can't depend on him to make no 67-yard field goal. Like, you're just asking for too much, man. You got to do more. And I don't blame that loss on Lamar Jackson. Everybody wants to come for Lamar and that loss. Like, their defense didn't hold up once again. Like, their defense got to hold up. Lamar's doing the best what he can do. Again, he has not had a number one receiver really his whole career. Has he had number one receivers? Like a stud number one receiver. That's what I'm referring to. He has Mark Andrews, of course, but he has not had that number one stud receiver. Let's kind of put that into account as well when we kind of evaluate and analyze him. The Titans, good team, great defensive front. I just think when it comes to playoff time, you know what they're going to do, which is running football, which is good. But if you can stop the run, what else does Tennessee really give you? I mean, obviously Treylon Burks, the rookie, stepped up big, but I mean, they're kind of limited in a sense. If you can slow down Derrick Henry, do you believe in Tannehill to lead you to a win? I don't know. I haven't seen that really. So that's their kind of limitation. Miami, I gotta wait and see. I can't really, like I said, comment on Miami. This 3-game stretch they got again, 49ers, Chargers, Bills. Let's see how they perform. Then I can kind of give my assessment on how dangerous I think they can be. And the last, Chiefs, we know what the Chiefs are gonna do. Like I said, end of the day, they're gonna be there. They're gonna find some way, somehow, to get into the conference championship game. And when you play them in that quarterback, good luck. That's all I can say. Good luck.
Yep. So, I mean, the AFC West, the Chiefs, it looks like they're potentially going to run away with it. The Bengals game will be huge. That's a tough matchup for both teams, but I think the Chiefs have a very favorable schedule after that. So I expect them to take that. In your division, though, I mean, you guys have come a long way. This Chiefs game's huge, but you guys have a tough stretch as well.
Yeah, we do.
Who do you guys play after the Chiefs?
So we got Chiefs, we got the Browns, and then I think I know this might not be in order, but I know we still got to play the Bills. That's a Monday night game in January. We got to play Baltimore at the end of the regular season. We still got to play Tampa Bay, and I think it's like one more team, but they're all like either 500 or above for the most part.
I think the Chiefs is like the Broncos and stuff.
Yeah,
so, so I think the Chiefs have a much easier schedule after this. Bengals, it's a huge game for the Bengals just ahead of this stretch for them to try to pull ahead in that division. They're obviously tied with Baltimore right now. They'll have a big matchup with them later, as you said. The Dolphins and Bills are kind of neck and neck right now too, so that will be a big test. See who comes out of that battle. And then the Titans are still kind of running away with that AFC South, but as you said, they do benefit from having Tannehill back, but I mean, they're still kind of really relying on Derrick Henry to show up and play at top form week in and week out. And just tough. They have not had the passing game step up, but defensively, they're still a really tough football team, but they are in that position right now. All they have to do is pretty much go 500 the rest of the way, and they'll lock up that division first seed.
Yeah, and real quick, what do you think about the Jets? That's the last team.
The Jets. I've heard a lot about them this season, just as you said, the defense, and they've been winning these big games. Yeah. I don't know. As a Chiefs fan, it does not scare me. So I'll just say that. It's kind of, I'm not used to being in the position where I'm that confident in the Chiefs, but it's just a team like the Jets, if they're on the schedule, I'm not worried. I'm worried about the Bills.
You're almost licking your chops.
Yeah, possibly Baltimore, but I just don't think they have the game plan and the quarterback and just the overall team that can beat the Chiefs.
I feel you. But yeah, guys, I'm going to throw to you, Craig, one more time. Anything else that just caught your eye that you wanted to talk about? Any point differentials? Any teams that we didn't talk about today across college football, NFL, GHSA that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
All right. Who do you think has a better chance of sneaking into the playoff? Washington or, let's see, Washington or the Jets?
Oh, good question. Man. This answer for me is going to be based off of the conference they're in, not the team I think is better.
Because both of them are kind of in that third place in their own division. So
right, because it's like I can see the Jets like potentially like losing because they still got to play the Bills again. They got this tough game against the Vikings. I think they got to play the Dolphins again. So you look at those 3 games; those are not easy games. And you go look at Washington. They've already played Philly twice. They split that. They got to play, I think, the Cowboys one more time, and they play the Giants, I think, twice. But their schedule is not as difficult as the Jets is about to be. So if I had to put money who I think can sneak in, I'm going to say Washington. I think the Jets have a better team, but just based off of the schedule and how close, like if you look at the playoff standings for the AFC, it's like nip and tuck. Like even like New England 6-5, Chargers are 6-5. Trying to see is there any other teams that are up there. I think those are the two. Yeah, Chargers and the Pats. So they're gonna have something to say in that conversation.
For sure. No,
So
that'll be interesting to see.
And then if you look real quick before I throw it to you, Washington, the next highest opponent is the Falcons, really. Oh, Seahawks, obviously, but we just have to see how that
Yeah.
turns out. They still got to play San Fran again, but the next after that is just the Falcons and Lions. I mean, they're not pushovers, but I mean they have 7 losses already.
Yeah, for sure. I think the AFC is a little stronger this year. Obviously,
Yeah.
not the Chiefs division, or I mean the Chargers are good, but Raiders and Broncos, my goodness,
That was so disappointing. You know, I had them like at least like I'm be honest, I didn't even have the Chiefs winning their division. I had the Chargers winning the division, but I had the Chiefs like second, maybe third. But boy, was I wrong. I didn't believe in the Raiders, but I thought the Broncos were going to be a lot better with Wilson. But it's the Chiefs division. A lot of people say you guys are going to lose. I think you guys won 6, 7 straight years in a row. You won the AFC West.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I mean that's unheard of though for just Mahomes to come in and just lead them year after year.
Yeah.
I mean
that's what he's doing.
Yeah, no other team has had that consistency besides I guess the Pats back in the day.
Yeah.
But I mean it's been amazing.
Yeah, and real quick before we wrap, what do you think about even potentially? This is one more question to you, Craig. A potential of, I don't know how you want to quantify the quarterbacks, but you know how you had like back in the old days, you had the Brady, the Manning, and then you had like Rodgers in there, and you had the Breeze. What do you think about the potential of the AFC with the Mahomes, a Allen, and a Burrow? We'll see what happens with Tua. Obviously, so early in Lamar, but I mean, as this maybe those are like the three year in year out are probably going to be there. What do you think about like kind of that trio just battle year in year out? What that could be just for the AFC, even for the NFL, just 1 year it might be the Chiefs, next year it might be the Bills, another year it might be the Bengals again. Like, what do you think about that?
I think that'd be amazing. And you look at those three guys and what it would take for them to be at that level you're talking about. It's like you are having to be a true, like, not student of the game, but just expert. You're going to have to be cutting edge. You need to be studying. Anytime you get new pieces into the team, it's like you have to send that culture and game identity. You have to be that leader as well as the guy that's going to make the plays off and on the field. But I think it's about like the accountability. You're in that role. Mahomes is going to take accountability for any loss. Burrow's, even if he's sacked 5 times or even if his defense didn't show up, it's just like that accountability, and then just having to prove it on the field. I think that's what would make the teams like great, not only through them, but it's like, yeah, if they're at that level, that's what's going to make the NFL exciting to watch year in and year out when you have a bunch of quarterbacks like that, and it's not just kind of like a one team running it year after year. I think that'd be really exciting to see.
Yeah, and I think an underrated part that wasn't mentioned was just they all have that clutch gene. Do not give Mahomes the ball with 30 seconds. Don't give the ball to Burrow with a minute left. If he got a line and they're blocking, he's going to kill you. Same thing with Josh Allen. Do not give him the ball with whatever's time is left on the clock. They're going to kill you. So they're straight killers. And, sometimes you're just going to see, better offense beat great defense just with how special they are.
Yeah, and they're just comfortable in any situation. But, yeah, the poise of Burrow is just so impressive. I don't even know if it's natural, but it's definitely there. You see it. I mean, he does not get rattled. Obviously, Mahomes doesn't either. So I think that's why this next game is going to be so special. And then they're just guys that they don't want to go out there and have an average game. I mean, the Chiefs won this last week, and the entire post-game conversation is just about all the mistakes they made. It's like there's a lot of teams that wanted to win this last week, and it's still not good enough for them. So they have big expectations and goals. I think that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, and it's a lot of teams that want to be 9-2 as well. that are 9-2. So I mean, yeah, if you're winning, that's what I feel like too. Sometimes you have to win ugly, and I feel like if you're winning games, that's all that matters, and you're getting to where you want to be and contending for a championship and being a legit contender. That's all you can really ask for at the end of the day, because it's tough to win in the NFL. Everybody takes for granted how easy or thinks it's easy to win in the NFL. It's not. It's very tough. And I can't wait to see, man. We're gonna have a great stretch of games, and I can't wait for some of the upcoming, playoffs and some of the big games coming up. Like I said, later in the season, I think week 17 we play the Bills on Monday night at home. That's gonna be a hell of a game. I can't wait. But that's all we got for you guys for this show, Underrated and Overlooked. Make sure you go to scoreatl.com for all of our updates on stats and all our articles coming out this week, and major game with Gainesville and Roswell playing. And also go to Score Atlanta's YouTube page and Twitter account. All the content that we did today will be on there. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.